at the end of 2023, and we were about to hit, like, people were getting really finicky with their money, and both of these clients backed out on me. It was this moment where I was like, I had a full-time employee that I had hired working with me on this. And I went from having a lot of money, the more money than I ever have had in my life coming in the door, to all of that disappearing overnight. And I had already started to putting this conference together to bring Evoke to Des Moines because I was starting to catch on to how vulnerable I was. But all of that money went away. I had my full-time employee, and I had a conference that was costing me thousands of dollars coming up. But it got to the point where I had been paying their salaries and not mine for so long.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Ryan Snaadt, it rhymes with odd, and you're listening and watching the Rhymes with Odd podcast. Today, we're hopping back in the booth with another amazing guest. We got Whitney Warne in the house. Whitney,
hello.
Welcome in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Whitney and I have been connected for many years. Mm-hmm. We're kind of recounting this. Probably 8 to 10 years ago we met.
Yeah, I'll go with that storyline.
Awesome. Well, so kind of the Sparkness version from my end. Whitney owns a photography company and also a emotional intelligence company, consulting company. We're going to talk about kind of the journey that you've been from moving away to coming back, starting your business from scratch in Des Moines, but also kind of the big pivot, I would say, of going from being
How do you do this and this? And it turns out they're about the exact same thing, just different mediums.
Yes. And we'll kind of talk how you're designing your lifestyle to fit where you are in life currently, because there's so many cool things that you're doing that kind of help where you're doing what you want to do when you're doing it, which is where I think everyone wants to be. So
it feels good.
Thanks for coming on. So happy. I always say great place to start would be you're in an Uber with a chatty driver. You got a 30-minute drive, and they ask you, so what do you do for work? Who are you and what do you do? What would you typically tell that person?
Yeah. Okay. So I am first and foremost a photographer, and I've been doing that for over a decade for myself, but 20 years in total. And then I'm also an emotional intelligence facilitator and trainer. So, and people are like, what's that? I teach people how to talk to themselves and others in a very kind way, usually in the corporate space. So.
No, I love that. And it's going to be super cool because there's something people that are listening to can take from any of this, whether it's your business journey, but also these the soft skills, which we've talked about this on other episodes. I feel like that's the huge dying skill set is how to talk to people. Yeah. We shoot with a lot of high school aged kids, college kids. Some of these people don't know how to speak to other humans. And
it's a real issue. Well, and adults also don't know how to speak to other humans. We have plenty of proof of that with employee satisfaction rates in the corporate world.
Sure.
So I generally end up in those spheres. And we like to make it about the kids, not to say that they don't know what they're doing, but the boomers don't know what they're doing either.
Sure.
Different challenges for different generations.
Absolutely. So let's take it back to the very beginning. Where'd you grow up? What was your childhood like? Where are you from originally?
Yeah, well, very, very originally, I'm from a small town, Atlantic, Iowa. I grew up on a hog farm. Yep.
Were you by the Coca-Cola factory?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's the town I grew up in. So my dad still lives there. He lives on our Century Farm. So the pigs were right outside my door, which is not something that most people generally associate with me at this point in time. But we moved, my mom and I and my brother moved to Des Moines at middle school. So went to Johnston High School around here, then University of Iowa. So, Iowa girl through and through. Left for a bit. I went out to the East Coast when I went and got my master's degree, and then decided to come on back here. I lived out on the East Coast for 7 years, and then I was like, I want to start my business. So I came back to Des Moines.
What drew you to the Rochester area, right?
Yeah.
What drew you to that area compared to the hog farm of central Iowa?
They're not that different. So
Okay.
Rochester, New York is Western New York. It's agricultural. So what actually took me out there was I got my master's degree in photography from RIT, which at the time, I don't know what it is now, but it was an incredibly great school for photography. Rochester is where film was created. So Kodak is there. So it was just a town steeped in the legacy of film. It was a really cool place to get my master's degree.
Did you ever go into this New York City area or Jersey or any of that?
Yeah.
How far away a drive is that?
Oh, it's 7 hours.
Oh, my.
Yeah. New York State is actually quite big. So when I would say New York, if you're in Iowa, you're like, oh, New York City. And I'm like, no. Sure. And in fact, Rochester and Des Moines are very, very similar. Rochester's just a little bit more blue collar. It was a great town to be in your 20s and only be able to pay $2 for a beer because it offered that straight up So
Sure. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned your family had moved, or your mom and your brother had moved to Des Moines. Did your parents split when you were high school, middle school?
oh gosh, sick. I was 6.
Six?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I was like,
Yep,
sick?
so-
What?
yeah, so when I was sick, they
There you
no,
go.
no, no.
Yeah, right.
So super young. We lived in Atlantic for maybe a couple years longer, and then it was 4th grade. Yeah, 4th grade. So just before.
Well, I'm sure, and I lived in Southeast Iowa and then eventually moved to Des Moines area. And it's like, even the contrast from going from like small town rural to the booming metro of Des Moines, where it, like all my family thinks I live in like Chicago or something. Like you're in the city slicker up there. It's like, okay.
Seriously. I was always, I remember it distinctly when my mom was like, we're going to move. And, we were living in my dad's hometown. And I can't imagine what that would have been like for my mom, who, they're now divorced and she's in this tiny town trying to have a job that will support 2 small kids. She's like, we're going to get out of here. We're going to Des Moines. And I'm just so grateful for I don't think I would be the same person if I had. I'm sure I would have been an excellent person if I had grown up in that environment. But I just like all the options that I was aware of because I got to live in Des Moines.
Sure. Want to know, like your mom's in the nonprofit space, correct? And then you're
recently retired, sort of. We don't know what yeah, she's in the nonprofit space.
Sure, because I know like my uncle retired and his wife retired, and then like a week later called me and was like, "Hey, do you have any jobs?"
Epically failing at it. Like people are just like, "You want to do this, right?" So she gets to be choosy now and does a lot of fun work in that space.
Sure, because I know like with your mom and also your brother kind of being like in business leadership, entrepreneurship world, was that something that kind of stemmed from like just the family in general has that kind of feel, or wanted to be involved in the community, or?
That's interesting. Okay, so I went away to grad school, and during that time, my mom got this job at the time it was Pioneer, now DuPont, now whatever the iteration they're on, and she got this job doing philanthropic giving for that company, and it put her in a position where she really started to know a lot of our local leaders because they were asking her for money. And so I came from my mom being like an auditor, like someone who didn't know a lot of people in the community. And then when I would come home, we would go out to dinner, and all of a sudden, like everyone knew who she was. But that's not how we grew up. That's not how I knew my mom in like middle school, high school. That was very much another iteration. But I would say in general, contribution is a really big thing in our family, and work ethic. We are workers. You work hard. You go to the max, and that's actually something I've been unlearning in a lot of big ways. Like I don't have to work hard. Like hard work doesn't look like intense effort all the time. It doesn't look like driving through the brick wall just because I can or really can't, but I'm going to try to. But I would say the work ethic, community engagement, like what you put into the community is what you get out of it. So when I moved back to start my business, I moved back and moved in with my mom. I was 29 years old, and I was like, okay. And at that time, she had just moved out of a house into like a beautiful condo, but there was no second bedroom. Like I was sleeping on an air mattress in her lofted area, and just talk about like a humbling experience. And so, first of all, I was very motivated to make enough money to have my own apartment as soon as possible. But second of all, she had a couple of, she gave me a couple key intros, but then it was just like, go figure out how to do this. And then I did.
When you found yourself sleeping on the mattress, what was like the first, I would say, 60 to 90 days like for you? Because like you said, there's this complete torch under your backside to like figure things out.
Yeah.
What were some of those things you were doing to like kind of hit the pavement and drum up some business from scratch?
Yeah, absolutely. Because people are like, oh, you're from here. You must have known everybody. And I was like, I've been gone for a decade at that point with college and grad school. So the very first thing I did was anytime I went on a coffee date or a lunch date, I would ask them, who else should I meet with? And I would leave with at least 3 names, and then I would follow up. I was so heavily caffeinated in those days, just like buzzing.
I'm having coffee at 7 p.m.
And now I don't. Like the only thing I can handle it, my aging body can only handle like just green tea. That's it. But back then I'm just buzzing, and I took everybody up on that. I didn't say no. The other things that I did, one of the very first campaigns I did, and I guess you can kind of see that in my work now, is one of my mom's neighbors was the director of a nonprofit called the Solidarity Foundation. Just happened to have dinner with him one night. She had him over, and he was talking about what he was doing and trips he was going on, and he was like, I'm going to Puerto Vallarta. and I need someone to film like what I'm doing there. Now, to all of you listeners, you're going to call Ryan if you want video. You will literally never call me for this. But I did create like a video documentary for this man that was running the Solidarity Foundation at the time. But in order to fund it, I funded it with something called $200 headshots for Solidarity. And that was the beginning of me understanding just how philanthropic Des Moines is and just how unwilling people are to get their own photo taken, but how willing they are if there's a cause involved. So I really understood that if I wanted to get people to show up for this uncomfortable thing, that is somewhat a necessity, but you can avoid it if you need to. I needed to create a cause. And y'all, I was doing this in my mom's living room. Like my first studio was 8-foot tall foam core, like white and black foam core that I would move in and out of her garage. And my mom is a CEO, so and very, very type A, like incredibly type A. So I would like move all of the furniture, and then I'd be like, okay, we have to move it back exactly.
Where's the indents on the carpet?
Yep,
You gotta get it back.
The whole thing. But now, if you look at the Ivory House look, you can look back at my photos from 10 years ago, and they look almost identical. Like it has not shifted, and I think that I learned very early on just from those headshots what value I was going to bring to this community, because so many people were like, oh my God, I've never had a headshot experience like this. Like I've never seen anything like this. And I'm sitting here like, y'all, this is like the easiest thing I do.
I said smile and like, look over here.
Yeah, like, and do the thing. But like, I do a lot of posing. I do like, it is not, you are not comfortable necessarily in your body when you're getting photographed by me, but you are comfortable because I've told you. And then I turn the camera around and you're like, holy shit, that was pretty good. So yeah, that was the beginning of the aesthetic. And
That's
then
crazy.
3 months later, I was making enough money to live in a really terrible apartment. So, but I've done that too.
There you go. There you go. When you're kind of doing that first campaign too, I'm sure it's scary for these people to trust you to come in and do that, even if it's for a brief headshot.
Yeah.
What are some of the techniques that you, maybe not specifically things you want to give away the secret sauce, but how do you make people feel relaxed behind the camera? Or in front of the camera, I should say.
Yeah. Well, the very first thing is it starts with your very first communication. So like it starts with the ask, it starts with your emails, it starts with how you prepare for them to even arrive to you. So many people think the shoot starts when the shoot starts. The shoot starts the moment that they hear who you are and what you're doing and how they hear about it. And then it's like, okay, were they given proper directions? Did they have a style guide to show up? Did they know what to wear? So in the early days before I had a lot of infrastructure, I had a lot of conversations. And so I would call people and we'd have a 15, 20-minute call before they even showed up to prepare them. Now I don't have to do that because I have a lot of infrastructure to support me with that. But communication. And then once they've got there, they've already had, 1 to 2 positive touch points with me. There's already a little bit of trust built. And then I tell people what to do. I am not the photographer who's like, do whatever you want, I'll capture it. Absolutely not. That's how you end up with 4 chins and you're not breathing and you're like, it's not good. So
just stuck in like this toothpaste like thing. Yeah, like I'm not even comfortable in my clothes. I can't even move. Yeah.
I mean, most people don't know how to pose themselves in a way that looks incredible. I do. So I take that really seriously. So yeah, it's all about communication up front.
Sure.
And then owning the shoot. Like when someone, and this is a lot of my personality. Not everybody, I study personality and I teach personality differences for a living. So there's a lot of nuance to this, but I am someone who loves to tell people what to do. Mm-hmm. And when someone enters my space, I take that very seriously. I don't adjust to their energy. They adjust to mine. And so that is why people end up looking so confident, so like ready, so themselves, is because these are qualities that come easier to me than maybe other people.
Well, and people in a social situation will mirror whatever you're doing, whatever you're putting out. If you're shy and they're like, or they might be like kind of standoffish, like, well, they're hiding something. Or if you're like proud, bold, confident, boisterous, they're like, oh, I can let my hair down.
Yeah, they absorb that.
Yeah, or if they come in and swear first thing, like, don't swear in my studio, or take your shoes off. They're like, whoa, what? Like I'm on defense now. You know, I'm not going to be like comfortable with just being who I am.
100%.
Because we do that a lot with interviews too, and we train that too with our crews. Even if I'm not on set, it's like, how do you get these interviews to be so good? I'm like, you have to connect with this person before you start interviewing them for the thing. Yeah. Like the second you meet them, how do you make them feel comfortable? It's like there's a whole.
How do you welcome them?
Right.
Yeah.
And make them feel like you know what you're doing. This is going to turn out well. I'm going to get you looking the way that you want, like you said, make you look and feel the best. So
But that's like your presence. And people will reflect back to you whether you have a presence that makes people feel safe or not. You will feel that whether you're aware of it or not. But if you can get someone to do what you want them to do, then you likely have a presence that makes people feel safe. But people don't just do things willingly. Like they need a good reason. They need that trust. They need that credibility. And the credibility comes from like all of those touch points. Like, do they have a website? Have I been referred? I mean, I've got a story from, this is more recent, but like 2 years ago, I had somebody that just found me on the web. And most of my clients are referral, although every once in a while somebody does find me via the Google. And his daughter had found me, and they're a small financial firm that worked out of their home. And you know, Amanda, like she always does, sends the bill and sends it in full because we get paid in full before I show up. And the dad calls Amanda and is just livid. Like, I can't believe you would expect all of this, da 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 da. And Amanda called me and she was like, okay, you know, debriefing. And I was like, how do you hear about us on the web? I'm like, okay, he doesn't have a reference point. Just have him pay half of the bill so that, you know, we can show up and do this. And then not only did the man, you know, rave about us and write, you know, I show up, I do my thing. But then, of course, he bought more images. Like, it was a whole thing. He's had me back since then. But he didn't have that trust. And he was also protecting his daughter from like potentially being swindled or whatever. You know, there's all these stories that come up. So now it's like he pays the invoice in full every time I ask. Mm-hmm. But that trust is so critical. And when someone hasn't heard about me from referral, I understand that it's a different trust barrier.
No, I love that. And it's so interesting too, because people are going to have those walls up for whatever reason. They hated picture day when they were in school, or their wedding photographer was terrible,
or the marketing department person that hasn't been trained at all. That's what I encounter all the time. Like, the person with the camera in the marketing department. I'm like, well, you have been hurt.
Yes. Well, I always laugh too, because so my aunt is very, very into photography. Mm-hmm. She always has been. My dad's side is like 80 people. Mm-hmm. So every time we get together, and they're all ages, and there's some are 90, some are 1 year old, some, you know, everyone piling for a picture. She's never very like smooth with it, very like aggressive, and no one listens and no one pays attention and whatever. And there's one time like the whole family was just so dysfunctional. I'm like, give me the camera. So like took it from, I started like barking orders and telling people what to do. Yeah. And not in a mean way, but it's like.
In a direct way.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, we need this picture. The sooner you listen, the sooner we can get back to whatever the heck you guys are doing. It's like, okay. Yep. And then I start like cracking jokes because I know all my family members. So I know how to, like, which ones I can crack jokes, which ones to tell.
You need to be gentle with.
Yes. Hey. And then I'm like, hey, so-and-so, I can't see your face. Like find a window, like little things. And then we get the picture done. And she looks at the camera and she's like, how did you get them to do that? Like, you got to know your audience. Yeah. You got to know people.
Yeah. You got to be flexible to them. But I will tell you that not everybody has that skill. And there are a lot of photographers, there are a lot of videographers that are out there that still don't have that skill. And it, you know, they may like their camera, but I've said this from the very beginning, don't talk to me about my camera. I do not give a shit about my camera. I can't even, like Megan, who's worked with me for 9 years, like if I have a camera question, I ask her. She's not asking me. I don't know the answer. Right. I know people, front, back, side to side. Like, I've got them down. That's something that's innate, but that's also something that I've worked on. And that's something that you can teach it, but you have to want to know.
Sure. God, it's so refreshing to talk to someone else that has that same
skill set.
Yeah, skill set thought. Because same thing, whenever I meet other people in the creative industry, it's like, let's talk about gear and whatever. I'm like, the conversation you should be asking me is like, what's your pricing structure? How do you get clients? Like the things that actually
what's your funnel? How do you guarantee your income from month to month, year to year? Like, this is the stuff that keeps you in business.
Yes.
Your gear just costs you money. If you're not making enough money, it doesn't matter if you have it.
Sure. No, I love it. It's definitely a piece that I think a lot of people don't have in those soft skills. Kind of tying it back where, like, from your childhood to where when you started the business, what do you feel like was one of like the biggest lessons you took from childhood that you still have in business today?
Oh, that is a great question.
I'll give you a second to sit on it. I don't want to like make you have to feel like you got to rush it, because there's a lot of things that we take from that. I mean, you mentioned the hard working, the work ethic, but I think there's probably
there's
else
something
to that?
Bigger than that. I think it is showing up for people genuinely. Like, and I don't know exactly what about my childhood taught me this. Because my parents were, well, I guess my dad was a farmer. So in a way, he's definitely an entrepreneur. He transitioned out of that at some point. But it was not like, I didn't grow up thinking I would own my own business. That was not in my purview. But I did grow up knowing that how I treated people was how I was going to be treated. And also there was something about giving without keeping tabs on it. And that was really important. I guess I saw that modeled quite a bit. You know, you just show up for people, you do the right thing, and then the right thing will return to you. And I think as a young entrepreneur, you expect your efforts to pay off in a linear fashion, and I can guarantee that they never do. That, you know, the person who has been telling me for 10 years, well, someday I'm going to get in front of your camera. Well, someday they will. But I've been hearing the same person tell me that for 10 years. You never know when that authentic, genuine give is going to come back to you. And I think that has a lot to do with a lot of the nonprofit work I've done over the years is like, yeah, this might not have made me any money, but it made me feel good. It gave me, like, I got to contribute in a way that I find matters. And at some point that's going to come back to me. And it doesn't have to be in any way that I expected. And so just not keeping tabs on how you receive, but being open to it at all times. And then showing up in a way that you're like, okay, cool. I know I've done my part.
I love that. As you're building Ivory House photography in our chronological story here, you were building it. At what point did you decide, okay, I need to get like a studio space and stop shooting in my apartment or my mom's front room where she's going to be like, there's dirt on the carpet.
Oh my
Come
gosh.
on, Whitney,
like
what are you doing?
immediately. So that was a crazy experience. I have been very fortunate. One of my special skills, I think, is knowing the right people or being the right people finding me or just, you know, I've always had the right people around me at the right time. But I ended up moving in 6 months into moving back, still incredibly financially unstable, like paying my own rent, just hoping to survive every single month. But I am a studio photographer. And so having a studio seemed to be really, really important. And so I ended up moving into a nationwide building. And the space that I occupied was a closet prior to me, a 756 square foot closet. But that's where you would have met me.
Sure.
And I was there for 2 years. And I loved that space with my whole heart. And like I outfitted it. It was home. And that was back in the days when I was hustling just as you would expect a young entrepreneur. You know, I would get to the studio by 8. I sometimes wasn't leaving until 11 or midnight. Like my entire social life was out of that studio. Like my dog came with me every day. Like we were just... it didn't matter where my home was because I was not there often. Now, I do not live like that anymore. But
A little cot in the corner, a little microwave.
I mean, there was a couch that got slept on more than I'd like to admit. Definitely had a microwave and a fridge and like all the snacks. And plus, I was right downtown. It was great for 80-35.
There you go.
But back when it was downtown. But yeah, that place holds so many incredible memories, but it was also the place of a lot of my biggest lessons and like what actually mattered, because I actually ended up losing that studio space. My neighbors, I won't tell the full story, but anyway, I didn't have first right of refusal after the second year. So my realtor called me, and I don't know. I'm kind of like I know things before they happen. I don't know how. It's just whatever. I'm a Pisces. But I walk into it. I miss a call from my realtor. I walk into one of my first floor friends, like my work buddy, and I was like, I just missed a call from my realtor, and I don't want to call him back because he's going to tell me that I'm not going to be able to be in my studio space anymore. And he was like, why do you think that? I was like, I don't know. It's just, I just
Go buy a lottery ticket. You can like see the future.
I know.
Crazy.
I never buy lottery tickets. Maybe I should.
It'll hit you one day. You'll be like, I need to buy a lottery ticket.
I will, actually. I'll let you know when that happens.
Okay.
Be like, you want to buy the same numbers? So I call him back and he was like, yeah, you got to be out. And they gave me plenty of lead time. But I will tell you, I was a sobbing mess, like hysterical, like on my knees, because at that point in my journey, I was less than 3 years in at this point. My thought about my business was that it only existed in that space because I had built my aesthetic in that space. I had built my rhythms in that space. It was very professional looking. And I was only paying $1,000 a month for this prime real estate space in downtown Des Moines. I had a key parking spot. Like it was a dream. It was an absolute dream. And I went into a full panic. Like that, talk about like probably 6 months of just absolute chaos in my life because I didn't know how to get trust that my business would survive something like moving my studio. Sure. I've had 5 studios since then, so like it's fine. We've survived. But I had to learn the lesson that my space is not the magic. That was always me. I can make any space work.
Sure. What was kind of the response from clients? Did you kind of like infect them with your fear when you're like,
oh God, no,
my studio's gone. Like you can't shoot. We're going to shoot in an alleyway now.
No. One of my big tenets is, and I think this probably has just, again, a lot to do with my personality, but I don't share stuff like that with the public. My friends know that. Like my family will know if I'm going through a hard time, but it is never my client's responsibility to think about where I'm going next or what I'm doing next. They get told when something changes. This is changing. You're going to move here. Because that is, again, to me, I don't want to break my client's confidence in me. So the next place that I bought my house that I still live in. And I was like, I'm going to have a studio in my home. That lasted 6 months. Oh my God. Worst. Whoa. Never again will I do something like that. But I mean, to prove out my point, I was inviting people into my home and nobody questioned it for a single second. And I had reoccurring clients at this point. I have people that their very first shoot was in my home. And they're still clients of mine. Now, it just didn't end up being like the privacy thing. And I was like, and I had a dog and,
They're in there just helping themselves with your snacks and like, any milk in here?
Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, my kitchen needs to be clean all the time. And I have a very like scary driveway. Apparently, it doesn't scare me, but apparently it scares everybody else. So that only lasted about 6 months. But I was like, well, that was an expensive choice. I'm now, I now have a mortgage because I thought this was a good idea. But I do love my home now.
There you go.
But yeah.
The separation helps, I think, a lot too. Like I used to work from home, and I'm like, now that I've got kids and stuff, all the office space became my son's bedroom, and then our guest room became my daughter's room, and now it's just like there's nowhere for me in my own house. So it's like, but then also the nice thing is like, as I'm sure you're aware, you can close the door and leave.
Yeah. 100%.
It doesn't follow you home, or it's not in your home.
Yeah, or you don't like having clients. It's one thing. I do have an office in my home that I work in, but I of course, have a studio space. But I don't have to worry about what people are thinking about my home. Like, like that. That was just too much for me.
Right.
Because I'm also like a hostess and a neat freak. But like not always on my own time.
Sure. like don't come Wednesday afternoon. Maybe like give me a day or two before the weekend.
Let me know.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Let me have a Sunday reset. You got to clean everything. Yeah. Because I know with the promos and stuff you were doing, was that kind of the big kickoff? You mentioned that, was it like $200 headshots?
$200 headshots, yeah. $200 headshots turned into a $100 headshot campaign that is now, again, $200 headshot campaign because, like,
damn inflation.
God. There was one point, I'm like 6, 7 years, 8 years into this, and I'm like, $100 headshots is a full give, team. So we changed that. Sure. But, yeah, so that model back then, at that point, I was literally taking every single dollar that I had made from those headshots for Solidarity and putting to pay to go to Puerto Vallarta, because if you tell me I can travel, I'm going to figure out how to fund it. But that became a twice yearly campaign where I partner with a nonprofit, and the nonprofit gets photos. They get a percentage of the money that we gather from the shoot, and then they get brand awareness as well, because we back when I started this, I did something called Wednesdays with Whitney, right when Facebook Live was big.
I remember those.
Yeah. I did that for like every Wednesday for 3 years.
Yeah.
And
I saw you on, was it Facebook? Every Wednesday. I'm like,
Wednesday.
Whitney's live. Who's she talking to today?
Yeah, and people tuned into, that was a huge brand builder for me. And it was a lot about local community events. It was, people who I'd photographed, and it was always people that I'd photographed. So you would look, and the day before I would post a picture, and then I would tell a little bit about who's going to be on that I had taken, of course, and then they would come on. But like, it's such when you can figure out how to do marketing in a way that supports other people and actually adds value and interest, people don't feel like they're being marketed to; they feel like they're a part of the process.
Sure.
So COVID really, that's a lie. COVID didn't kill Wednesdays with Whitney. My general not wanting to do that anymore killed Wednesdays with Whitney. COVID just gave me a really good excuse to stop. But I think that's the other thing is like what has worked for so long you don't have to keep doing it just because you've been doing it. And that's something that I've had to learn over and over and over again is that I don't have to keep doing something just because I've done it. And a lot of entrepreneurs, that's a huge thing of letting something go.
Right.
And I think in order to reach where I've gotten now, I've had to let a lot of what I was doing in the very beginning go. My business looks entirely different than it did when I started.
Sure. The evolution process is so cool. And even in my own journey, I've had a similar thing where we were talking before, like I was on YouTube every week for like 6-7 years. I was posting a video. I was working a full-time job, doing client work, social media stuff.
It's intense.
And then I got to the point where it's like, okay, I have to like stop doing YouTube for a while. I think I took like a 6-month hiatus and the world didn't burn down, surprisingly.
Turns out.
You know? And even with this podcast, we've had a couple weeks where we've almost missed a Monday upload. And there'd be about 30 of you. Thank you for the 30 of you that listen consistently. That would be upset, but it's like, again, you gotta try to be where you need to be, and it's going to evolve and change as time goes on.
Absolutely.
So with that evolution, this kind of flows really well into what was the point when you're like, I can't do this by myself anymore. I want to start building a team and start kind of removing yourself from every single aspect of the photography business.
Yeah, like immediately, actually. So I hired, so I got my studio 6 months in, and I got Megan, who's been with me for 9.5 years. She's my editor. I hired her. She came to me as an intern. She carried my bag for like 2 weeks. I'm like, you are way too smart and like dedicated and show up on time to just do this. So she became my editor immediately. She was 19. She was going to school at DMAC for photography. And yeah, she's been editing ever since. I haven't edited a photo like you don't want me editing your photos is all I'm going to say.
I had that happen with like, I went a 6-month hiatus editing and then I had to go in and do something. I'm like, Evan, help me.
I don't know where the buttons are.
Yeah, the keyboard shortcuts all change in this dang update.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I've been doing some fun personal work lately and I'm like, oh my God, I'm back in Lightroom like I'm doing. And it's fun, whatever. It's low stakes because, no one's paying me to do the stuff I'm working on. But so that was very immediately. I hired a bookkeeper immediately. Like that was like, y'all, if you're creative, you better get your money people lined up. And like my first tax season.
Oh my. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time they were like, you owe this amount of money? And I was like, but I don't have it. Yeah. What do you mean?
We're supposed to save for this stuff?
Oh my God, how naive I was.
Yeah.
I remember him being like, you owe $13,000. And I'm like, but like where? From what? Like how are you mathing this? So that was cool.
There's a thing called taxes, Whitney. And you're like, no one ever told me about taxes.
And I was like, I can't even go back to that mindset because now I panic all year long about taxes. So like
I wake up in the night, I'm like, there's an intruder. I owe $100,000 in
my
taxes.
Yeah, we have like a whole account that we just consistently put money into for the rainy day. And then you realize, you want to owe taxes. Like that's actually a decent, at least a little bit. Can't hide it all.
Right. Well, I know we started doing, we've talked about this on the show as well. Profit First, if you've heard of that book.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's how we run the business now. And it made me not cry come tax season where I'm like, how much do I owe you? Yep. Like as I'm getting beat up in the alley from tax man. Like,
anything by Mike Michalowicz is you better be reading it. So the Pumpkin First method.
Yes.
Or the pumpkin one.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll put that in the link below
the pumpkin,
so people know.
Whatever.
Yes, good book.
That is how I built my business. That's how I, let go. When I first moved to Des Moines, I was thinking I was going to be a wedding photographer because that is what I had been for 8 years up until that point, working for 2 other photographers. I need to say this. We need to backtrack a little bit because I didn't just go from grad school to moving back to Des Moines to start my business. I actually have always worked for other photographers. So in undergrad, I worked for another photographer. And I was the only person to show up when he came to photo school and was like, I need someone to help me out. And I showed up at his studio, older biology professor that was like doing a lot of reproduction work and like shooting weddings on the side. And I was like his studio person. And then for 4 years in Rochester, New York, I worked for a portrait photographer. And a lot of people think that I got my portrait skills from going to grad school. I 100% did not. Grad school teaches you how to think about art, how to think about critically. And not to say that it didn't mentally prepare me for certain, it mentally prepared me to withstand a lot of critique, let's say that. But actually working for this, fellow, she was a couple years older than me. She had a beautiful portrait business. We did, 30 weddings a year at a very high ticket price together. That's what taught me how to shoot the way that I shot. So by the time I was moving home to start my business, I had been running somebody else's studio for 4 years. I wasn't just coming into this. And so many people are like, I'm just going to start my business. I'm like, you need to go work for somebody else. Like, I don't even necessarily always recommend school. In fact, a lot of times for creatives, I don't recommend school. I'm like, go be an apprentice and get paid. And don't expect like a ton of money. Like expect experience and soak it up. Because that's how I was able to get off. And I wouldn't say I was running, but I was at least, I was going pretty fast down the road.
But you knew the buckets that were required, right?
Yeah.
There's a systems bucket. There's the actual creation or production of the product or the service. But then there's also like the HR bucket, the accounting bucket. Like you have 100%. To invoice people.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we'll have people we work with that forget to invoice us. I'm I'm not going to just send you a check. You have to
you
remember
have to go collect
me.
your money.
Yeah.
And so many, and people who over-identify with the creative side, I'm like, listen, if you just want to be a creative and you don't want to think about the consequences of running a business, then you need to go work for someone else.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, the starving artist thing is not a sexy look.
You're driving like a beat up 1980s Pinto with the wheels are falling.
I mean, we're not into it. I wouldn't date a man if I was doing that.
Sure. Well, it's definitely the struggle that I think a lot of people have is that they think you have to pick one. And it's like, there are parts of this world that you can have your cake and eat it too. It just takes a little bit of taking a step back and being like, how can I build this differently, Yeah.
Well, and where do you use your creativity? A lot, I produce almost the exact same image on repeat. I photograph on a black and a white background, sometimes 20 to sometimes 50 times a day, depending on what I'm doing. That's not the creativity. The creativity is in the system that makes that happen. It's the person in front of me is what's new. What I'm doing is not new. Right. And I find that that's really why it can be. It's been very hard to bring somebody else in to do exactly what I do, because the level of monotony that you need to embrace in order to have a steady business is not for the faint of heart. And when people are like, oh, what do you, you're such a creative. And I'm like, I am. That's not untrue. But I don't exercise my creativity necessarily all of the time in terms of the images I create. I do that on my own time. But people come to me for something very specific. And because they know exactly what they're going to get, that is the key to my success. They know what it's going to look like. And I think you're going to see that with any photographer in town or videographer in town that has built a reliable source of income, is that they come in, you're like, oh, okay, cool. The picture that I got looks exactly like everything that I've seen on their website.
Sure.
And that means that you're not constantly experimenting.
Sure. Do you have, I would say, a percentage of your time that you reserve for dawdling or experimenting with different things? Or okay, we're doing a lot of portrait work, professional work. I would just love to shoot product photos for a day. Do you do any of that type of stuff, or do you kind of just stay in your lane and really when you're shooting it's for clients and it's the stuff that you're known for?
I mean, I mostly just shoot for money now. I'm going to be real honest.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. It's America. It's fine.
I am part of capitalism. So I will say the fun stuff that I do is I've started taking up film again. So I do that on my own time though, and I've been photographing. So I'll have people that I know are easy in front of the camera, I guess I'll say, come in and we'll play around a little bit. But most of that is me. I travel a lot. I take my film cameras with me and I have a great time there. But if there's a client on the other end or if there's a human on the other end of that, I just have a very high level of responsibility towards the image. But I have at times had to recalibrate my feelings towards photography, because I would not say at this point photography is my passion. People are my passion, 100%, but photography is not. Photography is a business that I run very well. But when I go be creative, it's not generally in the photography zone at this point.
Sure. Well, I think being unapologetically in that lane and knowing where the lines are, it might upset some people. It might be different than other people, but it's just, you're just putting out exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So we'll talk about Evoke in a second. I'd love to jump into the lightning round here and kind of give you some rapid fire questions, lighten things up here. You've not been briefed on these questions. These are something that you've never known. So
I have no idea what's about to happen to me.
Okay, cool. What is one word that describes your current season of life?
Content.
Okay. I like it. Do you want to expand, or is that?
I thought it was only one word.
We can mic drop it. No, that's good.
I mean, I've worked incredibly hard to be a person who understands how to be content and what I've had to let go of. And we talked a little bit about chaos before this whole thing officially started. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs were dopamine seekers, were chaos seekers. And I did that for a long time. And I set myself on fire a lot. I didn't know how to just let things be. I didn't know how to let things be enough. I didn't know how to accept that what I was doing was enough or that I was enough. And at this current stage in my life, I'm like, yo, we already did it. You don't got to do anymore. We got good.
I love it.
Yeah.
No, that's so great. What is one thing that most people misunderstand about you?
They think I'm an extrovert, and I am not.
Okay.
Like when I travel solo, and I can spend a week, 2 weeks not having conversations with anybody. And that's actually when I am at my happiest and most content is when I have a lot of alone time. So that part of this contentedness is that I do have a lot of time just to myself. And if I have a big day where I'm shooting, there has to be a counterbalance to that. Otherwise, I can show up and do what I need to do in front of other people, but it's at a cost that it's at an emotional cost that I am no longer willing to pay. So yeah, lots of alone time.
That is super interesting. I would not have guessed that. I'm glad I asked. What is your favorite guilty pleasure, like TV show or entertainment thing where it's like, I just need to veg for a while and watch this?
Oh, well, I'm currently watching The Summer I Turned Pretty, which is pretty fucking guilty.
Okay. I like it.
It's just an Amazon show. But like if I'm going to go on a repeat, like Grey's Anatomy, we've been together a long time.
Sure.
So like if I just need to like
a comfort show.
That or Veronica Mars.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, just
my wife's got the entire Veronica Mars collection in the basement.
She's got good taste.
And now it's like on streaming for free. I'm like, you can sell those. I'm not selling them. Like,
No. I have a tiny little DVD player that I've had since college. Okay. It's my brother threw it in the garbage one time, and I was like, "You get that fucking out! Like that is my emotional support DVD player."
That's a good like home defense thing. Yeah. Those are heavy. Just pick that up and hit somebody.
It's really big. But like all of my DVDs from like high school and college, like I have like one tiny box of like the DVDs. Like I've seen Chasing Liberty with Mandy Moore more times than if your wife like is that what? Yeah. Like, so yeah, those are my comfort shows.
No, I love that. Last question here. Actually, a couple questions here. We mentioned like putting power in people from like how they are on a photo shoot, giving them that like empowerment. What's like your favorite go-to like power outfit that makes you feel like unstoppable when you put it on?
It's usually a brighter color. It used to be red. Like people used to know me for like my red lips.
Yeah, you always wear red lipstick and a red of some kind.
Yeah, like I used to dress even more boldly in terms of color than I do now. But something shifted a few years ago, and I realized that was a show I was putting on. And now it is jeans and a button up. Like I dress much more simply now than I used to because I don't feel the same need to like display confidence. So like what I'm wearing right now, I'll probably wear this outfit for the rest of the week and I'll feel great every time I show up. But the more simple, the more comfortable. Like I'm not a heels girl. Like most of the time you're going to find me in a pair of tennis shoes because I have to go from shooting to dinner to like whatever. But yeah, I think my power outfit's actually probably my hair. I take that with me everywhere.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, you can't take that off. That's great. I think there's definitely something to it where what you wear does make an impact on just how you feel, but also you present yourself and whatnot too. So
absolutely.
And people always say too, like if there's a what would you even call it, like a dress code, either dress one step above or one step below to like get
offset.
to
I
pull someone's
certainly-
attention. You could scan a room and everyone's in business casual, and then there's someone like in a more casual outfit. You will
but
see them.
intentional.
Yes, like a
And so-
stylish casual, if you will.
And I would say that I love dressing intentionally, but I also have come to realize that literally the way I move, it doesn't matter what I'm wearing, the way I move through a room, I naturally draw attention. And when I really started to understand that, there are sometimes that I'll play that up, and there's sometimes where I'm like, I just don't want to today.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't have to necessarily wear red anymore.
Sure. No, that's super interesting. Last question here. How do you celebrate big wins in business or life currently?
How do I celebrate? I haven't always historically been the greatest at this, which is a very entrepreneur, high achiever thing to say. My team, which I'm sure we probably need to get back to that, actually, the team thing. But my team and I will go out to dinner, or we'll just like talk about what we've done, or like they're just my source of, they're why I'm still an entrepreneur. So like our team calls every week. We're like, okay, what have we done? So that's a great way. But I travel. I'll take time off. Like I'm planning 3 weeks off in January right now. And it's like, cool, we're just going to celebrate the year ahead. But honestly, how I'm celebrating a lot right now is like when I see extra cash just like hanging out, I'm putting it in a savings account. And like I am like celebrating with savings.
There you go.
And like what a weird thing to celebrate with. But I'm watching that pile grow and I'm like, oh my God, stability is worth celebrating.
Yeah. You just look in the mirror like, you did this.
You
Good
did
job.
this.
Woo.
You can retire someday.
Yeah.
Look at you.
No, that's great. No, I love it. Well, you've passed the gauntlet. Congratulations.
Oh,
You're out
great.
of
Well,
the
that
lightning
was
round.
fun. I'll take those anytime.
Very good. Okay, so to kind of put a bow on the Ivory House stuff, talk to me about current day. What's your current team look like? And then how many hours a week are you even putting towards the photography business? Talk to me about that.
I feel scared to even admit how few. So there's Megan, who's been with me for 9.5 years. So she's my full-time editor. She also does a lot of our shooting. So we have most of my work is corporate headshots or on-site corporate photography. And so she will do a lot of our corporate pipeline because we've got several corporations that just send their new hires to us and they come to the studio. So she does a lot of that with me. She also does like my senior, like high school seniors. I'm like, no. And she does all the babies.
Okay.
Like, I do not.
And you're like, this
is just no. I'm like, I do the adults. So she's got that on lockdown. Amanda is my business manager, executive assistant, work wife, the whole thing. Like, if you want anything from me, then you probably need Amanda's email address, not mine. She's been with me for 6 years. I had 2 or 3 like admin style people before her. And she will tell the story about how 6-ish years ago now, she was on a photo shoot. She'd come in. She was very recently postpartum, wanted to feel better, came to a shoot at Art Terrarium. And I just liked her. And this is how I hire. I literally just am like, oh, like I like your vibe. Sometimes that works, y'all, and sometimes that doesn't work. So just like don't necessarily take my advice on that. But we met at Starbucks and she thought she was showing up for a job interview and I just handed her my passwords and I was like, how much of your time can I pay for? So she started at 20 hours a week and now she's just with me. She runs both of my businesses. And then Kaylin came on 4 years ago. She's my digital marketing person. So she handles both of my emails, both of my email marketing campaigns. She handles all of Ivory House's social media. And then I have a few contractors. So I've got a bookkeeper, I've got a CPA, I've got a graphic designer, and I've got a digital content creator that like follows me around and like, does the video stuff. And they all worked on contract for me.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool because then you're just in your zone where you want to just be.
Yeah.
If you're in the business, you're shooting, and then you're out and you're not.
100%. So to answer your question directly, Ivory House, I'm maybe, it depends on the week, but 5 to 8 hours is what I spend on Ivory House total.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't feel like scared to say that's great, right?
But like if I'm shooting 5 to 8 hours, that is enough income. That is the income that we need to be making in order for all of us to get paid.
Sure.
So like, that's another thing of like, I watch so many entrepreneurs, especially when they're selling their hours, like they're not thinking about their hours correctly. And so when I tell people what my hour, like how I measure my hourly rate, people are like, holy shit, that's your hourly rate. And I'm like, well, my hourly rate pays not for the photo time. It pays for the 4 people that support that. It pays for the studio. It pays for the acquisition time. Like, yeah, yeah, that is my hourly rate.
Sure. No, that's awesome. So obviously you built the system. You got to the point where I'm only working 1 day a week. What else am I going to do with my time?
Yeah, I got really bored.
Talk to me about how Evoke EQ became the next business that you wanted to jump into.
Well, COVID happened, and I was really quite fortunate in the grand scheme of COVID creative work because I wasn't shooting weddings. My work was almost exclusively one-on-one or small groups. So yeah, we had the 3-month shutdown, but like the wedding photographer, like my heart goes out to everybody who was making their money that way because that recovery time was devastating.
Yeah.
But my workload, wasn't the same amount, but the portraits came back. But during the slower time, I went and did a training for Enneagram. Like I just, so if you don't know what Enneagram is, it's a personality assessment that when you take it and you're going to get a number 1 through 9 and no number is better than the other, but it's going to be a diagnostic tool for your greatest fears, motivations, and desires. And I'd loved this tool since I was, in my early 20s. And really wanted to use it as a bedrock.
I have to ask my wife because she has ours. I'll text her while we're going, and then I'll let you keep going though. But tell me about the Enneagram.
So I got certified in that, but that wasn't really the beginning of the journey. The beginning of my journey was I was absolutely stressed out. This is right when I hired Amanda, and I was heading into a 4-month-long emotional intelligence training for myself.
Yeah.
And I had just reached a point in my business where I didn't want to do it anymore. Like my body was stressed out, my brain was stressed out. I wasn't, the money to work ratio was not there. I was super overwhelmed. And so someone that I respected that was a business owner called and she's like, hey, I got this thing. It's in San Diego. You got to fly out 5 times to do it. And I was like, fly to San Diego? And I'm like, I'm already like deeply in debt. Why not?
Let's do it.
Let's go. This is why the savings account at this point is such like a thing because like, I have been in debt, y'all. But I went to this thing and I thought I was going to like a business retreat thing. It turns out it was this whole like transformational experience where I just got flipped inside out. And what I realized in that moment is that I think every person who goes on to be successful, like I looked successful on the outside. There were a lot of like success metrics that were happening for me, but I did not feel it. I didn't feel it in my bank account. I didn't feel it in my day-to-day. And in order for me to feel that, I was going to have to become a different kind of person. And so that experience taught me what emotional intelligence was, what it took to become, like reach the next level. And then while I was in that experiment, I was watching everybody's Enneagram at play because you were just like raw in front of people. Like I was in a room with 76 people, like deepest, darkest secrets, and team, like in that circumstance, I was the ice queen. Like their experience, like no one in Des Moines probably will have that experience of me of like, because when I'm out in public, like I'll be quite bubbly. But when I go into experience where nobody knows me and it's a group setting, like I revert to middle school Whitney who sat in the back and was the good girl and like didn't let anybody know her. Mm-hmm. And so it was really interesting to have some pretty heated and raw and honest feedback that hit from a room of strangers. And so I took that experience. I was watching all of us go through our Enneagram journeys. And I was like, ooh, I can use the Enneagram to teach people emotional intelligence. I didn't want to teach the Enneagram because like, whatever. I'm not here to make you more of your ego because that is what the Enneagram articulates is all of the ego conversations, the thing that limit us. And so if I could use this system to elevate how people talk to themselves and others, well, that sounded pretty cool to me. So I just used everything that I understood about building a business and built one again.
That's awesome. Because you take this test in San Diego, at what point is it like, this is so interesting? You probably immediately flew home and like got your entire team to take the test and start managing based on that.
Well, the Enneagram was different than the thing in San Diego. So San Diego was like this full like emotional intelligence, like active participation. So the Enneagram was something I pursued independently of this experience. But when I came home, my team was like, what happened to you out there? Like, did you just get a full body sage or like what's going on? Because I came back different. And then it's been 6 years since that experience. But like, there's been so many things that keep landing from that 4 months that I spent in this intense training. But the Enneagram was like a layer. It was my way to step into the corporate space. Because that work, I realized very quickly that while corporate people, there was tons of corporate people in that room, that kind of training was not happening in corporate spaces, nor were people necessarily signing up in droves to have that kind of experience. And I've worked with corporate people my entire career with Ivory House, and I just see the constant fear. Like that's what people bring to me is their fear and anxiety, and they're like sweating and their eyes are wide. And I have always known that I was uniquely qualified to jump the fear hurdle. But through the language of upping my emotional intelligence and understanding the Enneagram, I've gotten even better at that. And one of my passions is going into the corporate space where it's a very different mindset, where you don't have to be as alert or awake to yourself, honestly, because you don't have to be alert or awake to yourself to make a paycheck in the same way. And literally offering them a way to see themselves differently, that became really alluring to me because I didn't know how to solve the problem. I still don't know how to solve the problem that I see walking into the studio all the time. I make a momentary, people walk out and they're like, oh my God, I feel incredible. That's how people leave feeling. And then they've got this image that they can have as proof that they look great or whatever the proof that they needed. But I am interested as a human being in long-term growth, long-term change, transformation. Like, how do I become the next version of me and helping other people do that? And yeah, I do that through photography, but there's also this element of like, I can't get all the way in that bucket. So I stepped into the other.
That's awesome. So you spin this new business up. You're like, okay, obviously you have a huge client list from your photo business. You can say, hey, remember that time we shot photos and you were having a panic attack because you don't know yourself very well?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
It wasn't that direct, and people might think it can be a little bit of that because I do have a lot of crossover. But even if I look at my client list now, it's not a ton of them that are also my Ivory House clients. And in fact, my very first client with Evoke EQ came from the emotional intelligence world, the training that I had, like a referral. And I ended up working for a Fortune 500 Fortune 100 fashion company for about 2 years, almost exclusively, training their teams and bringing the Enneagram and emotional intelligence into that world. So the first couple, 2021 and 2022, I wasn't really talking about Evoke in Des Moines because I was flying to New York all the time. I was spending it was just like kind of a whirlwind. Like I couldn't believe that I just started this thing and I had this huge client. Now the crash is coming, y'all, because I had this client and then I had another company that you all know very well as a client. And I think it was, I don't remember what year it was now, but let me think. 2023. Yeah, right before 2024. At the end of 2023, and we were about to hit, like people were getting really finicky with their money, and both of these clients backed out on me. Just like the fashion company had been, I think, seeing what they were paying me and finally decided to bring someone in-house to do this. And then the other company, which is a tech company, was starting to get scared. Like we had 3 trainings on the calendar. Like we can't afford to do this right now. Now, since then, they both come back in various different ways. But it was this moment where I was like, I had a full-time employee that I had hired working with me on this. And I went from having a lot of money, the more money than I ever have had in my life coming in the door, to all of that disappearing overnight. And I had already started to putting this conference together to bring Evoke to Des Moines because I was starting to catch on to how vulnerable I was. But all of that money went away. I had my full-time employee, and I had a conference that was costing me thousands of dollars coming up. And it was not great. Like, I had a great 21, 22, and then 2023 and 2024 have literally been rebuilding from that crash. And, that was my first real experience of having to, get on a call and be like, you can't be full-time anymore. In fact, I need, you got to be contract, and you're going down really. The responsibility of paying people's salaries is such a huge weight. But it got to the point where I had been paying their salaries and not mine for so long. And this is, for me, I'm always like, if you're not paying yourself as a business owner, you don't have a business. But I got so into it of well, I know I have a business. I know I can build this back up. I can survive. And then it got to the point where I was like, oh, I actually might not. I actually might not survive this. And there's been a couple, 2023 was I might not survive this. And at the middle of 2024 was I might not survive this. And this is the middle of last year. I'm all content and great now. But the middle of last year, April of last year, I was looking at my team and I was like, we could end it right here. It could be over. Like, I don't need to be an entrepreneur. I don't need to work this hard for this little return. I don't need to have this lack of stability in my life. Like, I know my skill sets. I can take them into the corporate world. I know what I'm worth out there. And so I told them all, the core three that I just told you about. I've had various other people in and out. But one of the big things that I had to realize was I am the product. And so everyone that works with me, they do all of the rest of it. And I really stopped. And this is not necessarily something I would recommend. It's just what has happened to help me with stability is I stopped pretending that other people could also be the product. And I just went, it was a big moment of acceptance because I always wanted there to be a lot of other photographers for Ivory House or a lot of other facilitators for Evoke. But in building that up, they weren't bringing anything in. And so I was paying people that were not super attractors. And I was like, this isn't working. I can't be the only person bringing money into the table. And so I don't know if that's just a failing on me or who I am or, other people have figured out how to do that. I have just not. And so it required the ultimate humility of just being like, okay, if it's just me, I have to build the team that's so strong around me that I am not de-energized to be the product. And that was me on my knees. This year was literally, I was like, if I cannot pay myself like I would at any business, like everything is taken care of. Like I was like, here's all the things. I want my HSA fully stocked. I want my saving, like all of it. I'm going to be paid well this year. And otherwise we're quitting. And I think my team was like, oh, we really like our jobs.
Yeah, we don't want to go do something else.
They don't. Like we are so happy together, and that was always my biggest thing of like I don't want to have to go in and like work with people I haven't chosen. Neither do they. And Amanda has really been by my side, and I just handed all the keys to the financial kingdom over to her. And we were like talking with the banker, and he's like takes me aside and he's like, "Do you really want her like on all of your accounts?" And I was like, "Yeah." Because I'm more likely to run off with my money than she is. Like, I want her watching. I want the shame if I spend things that I shouldn't. I want her asking me kindly what I was thinking in that moment. I'm like, I want all of that. And one of the biggest things that happened is I put her in charge of paying me. I am not in charge of paying me. She is in charge of it. And so we had something happen like in February, and I was like, hey, like looking at the bank accounts, it doesn't look like we can pay me this week unless we do something. And she's like, you're getting paid. We're going to tell this contractor we're pausing. I never would have had the strength to do that. Mm-hmm. And it was nothing to the contract. They were like, yeah, whatever. Like, it's fine because they're a contractor. And like, but that's vulnerable. Like, she sees everything. There's no hiding. And people have often commented how vulnerable I am to Amanda. But I'm like, that vulnerability is what has allowed me to have intense freedom this year and have all of that stability. And it's worth it every single day to have that, to be at risk in that way, because I feel so much less risk now, having someone like totally in it with me.
What did you learn most about yourself from having that really dark point? Was it 2 years ago, last year, when it was?
There's been several.
When there's when you really just feel like your back's against the wall, because there's like fight or flight. Really, it's like you got to really fight to get out, or you're like,
I had to
I'm
surrender.
just gonna cave.
I literally had to surrender. Like I am someone who wants to hold it all for everybody, and and there was. When I finally let my team into just like what had kind of been happening for 2 years, they were like, oh my God, like, why didn't you tell me? Because they would have never chosen that for me. But I was trying to protect them from that, sacrificing myself. And so it was, what I've learned is that I am the most supported person I know. I am surrounded. I am just like, and I had this vision of me like falling back into a net of people that love me. And like, I have that. And like, that is, for me, that's successful entrepreneurship, is having people that you trust implicitly, that you've like poured into, they've poured into you, and that we all get paid well to do the thing that we do. And sometimes people are like, oh my God, you pay your team this? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Because their hearts are, the people are like, no one will love my business like I do. I'm like, I don't think, yeah, maybe not, but they love me in a way that's enough. Like to, and honestly, I think they do maybe love the businesses as much as I do. But I've also given them a ton of power and space in the businesses. So they feel like it's not just, especially Ivory House, it's not just mine. It is very much ours.
When you're kind of looking through the two huge clients, what did that teach you kind of about like revenue diversification and trying to like, without going super big name number, in a simpler term, how do you get more money from different people? So when one or two of your big dogs backs out, you're like, oh crap, we can't pay the rent anymore this month.
Yeah. I mean, to be super clear, I over 2 years, I made like $220,000 from 2 clients alone. Like that was my second business. So like we were doing fine.
Sure.
Like I built an entire retaining wall and a driveway, and I wanted to put a plaque on it. The retaining wall that this big client built, which ended up being a problem when I started to get poor because I was like, all my money is in concrete outside my house. Do you want it?
I'll pay you in a cinder block, sir.
Exactly, because
I can't pay for gas, but you take cinder blocks at the gas pump.
Apparently, it's very expensive to do what I did. But the big thing for me now has been reoccurring income. So retainer clients. So like most of my clients, I have 10 retainer clients right now. So some of those are individuals. A lot of those are teams. So teams of 3 or 4 leadership teams that I coach on a regular basis. I have 2 organizations that are inside my world. So instead of having the boom and bust of like paying for a facilitation, I've really just started saying, hey, this is what I do. I do 2 to 3 facilitations for your whole team over X amount of time, and we spread out the payments or whatever it is. Because having that, I had never had reoccurring income. I worked on commission when I worked for the other photographer, so I've always just eaten what I've killed. And then for the first 9 years of my business ownership, it was just, okay, well, what came in this month? And if I wanted to have stability, I had to actively ask for it.
Sure.
And create a business model that made that work. And so that's really been the key to this year. Is that's what I tell people I do. That's what and before it was like, I do one-off facilitations. And I was inviting the kind of work I was getting. When I tell people, I am committed to your team, your leadership for a year minimum. That's a very, it's actually the impact I want to have, first of all. But I had to have the confidence to ask for it. And say, this is what I'm doing, and this is what the price tag looks like over time. But hey, we're going to split it up because we all need that stability.
Sure.
So that's been, the key to so much, and it's been such a more fun way to work. I, of course, get one-off facilitations all the time or keynotes or things like that, and those are just gravy. Those just go into our savings account because we don't plan anything around them. They just come in and we're like, oh, we're going out to dinner this week, team. Let's do it. But yeah, retainer.
No, I love that.
Turns out.
And I think, and I would also agree. It's with our business, it's been a little different because we've gone hybrid solely because I've met with, if you guys remember in the podcast, Nicholas Hanstad from TH Media was on, and he was talking about how their whole business is all retainer, their video production. But he was saying how a lot of times there's a hindrance there because if you're maxed out on your retainer capability, Nike could call and say, hey, shoot us a commercial. Like we can't, we have no bandwidth to take it. So that's kind of why we're like in between where we do like half of our work is retainer, but then the other half is left for one-off because we get a lot of inbound from out of town or whatever. So it's like, I definitely think there has to be some kind of recurring model for a service like that because for any kind of service, really.
Well, you think about people who cut hair; they have a natural reoccurring revenue there.
Right.
Now, you're an eyes business, like there is reoccurrence. Like in Ivory House, we have a lot of ability to predict what's going to happen, but that's just because we have a lot of years. We have a lot of repeat clients. You have a lot of repeat clients. Now, we don't have a retainer model over on the Ivory House side, but we don't, because I built it with Evoke, we don't necessarily need it over here. But we know our numbers. Like in October, we know what we're going to make.
Sure.
But if you're in a service-based business, if you can figure out what works best in the retainer space, like honestly, it's the only way that I've been able to figure out how stability actually functions in my life.
Right. No, I totally agree. And we're in this season right now where I'm currently having a lot of these conversations with my CPA, my attorney, some other people like, okay, here's where the business is going. I want to make 2 or 3 key decisions to get us to that next level. But like, do we have runway to do it? Is this going to be sustainable? Am I going to like take the plane off and crash it on the runway before we even get off? I think my wife texted back with
let's find out.
Let's see what she said. Okay. So she is very introverted, quieter. She is a 1W9.
Okay, 1 wing 9, yep.
And I think you're a 3.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And then she said, you're a 3, which is the achiever one.
Yeah.
So
Does that resonate with you?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it might.
When we looked at all of our like stuff, it's kind of, you read the Enneagram and it's like, you want to see a mirror, like, oh, that is me.
Yeah.
Because what did you get when you took your test?
I am an Enneagram 8.
Okay.
Power and control.
Okay. Nice.
So the 3 and the 8, we can look very similar in the workplace, because as a 3, you're like, okay, not only do I want to be the best version of myself, but I want to literally produce the best, be the best. It's a lot about like making sure like my work is my value, but like creating success. So like as you started to say like, hey, I don't need to work nights and weekends. Like I want to create success a different way. I mean, these are all ways that a 3 grows, of saying, hey, it doesn't need to be me all the time out in front. Like success is my team operating successfully. But both 3s and 8s are, they're power and control, but it's really like, hard driving, we're more comfortable being out front than in the back. Like, leadership, I'm like, yeah, leadership is not the challenge here. Followership is my challenge. Right. I have had to learn to follow. And in following have become a better leader. But that was part of my struggle of like letting people in to see how bad it was. Is like I wanted to protect everybody, but I wasn't protecting myself.
Sure.
And so in order for us to grow, we have to lay down. Like sometimes you're going to have to lay down looking good in order for it to be good.
Yep.
And sometimes I'm going to have to lay down being strong in order to find some strength. And like those are just the counter, as I teach people, like what does it mean to grow as a human? I mean, like you need to do the exact opposite of what you naturally want to do.
Yeah. And
so this year, my whole model has been, what would an underachiever do?
Okay.
Like if I was an underachiever, what would I choose to do? Because one of my core tenets is that new ideas don't make money. And I love them. I just always want to.
I have shiny object syndrome too. It's a blessing and a curse, right?
I mean, it's the creative curse. Like we see something, we think our ideas are great. We have proof that we can build things, and I have a lot of proof that I can build things that work, but they take money. Mm-hmm. And this was my year of like, I will not do anything to destabilize this stability. And so I have not done anything new. I have run and maintain Ivory House hasn't started anything new. Evoke is just really leaning in. And the coolest part has been that it has allowed Amanda to step in, and she's redone all of our systems and processes, just as with the boom of AI, of like really making it so that she's working less and producing even more, or, working on like higher level things. And that's been where we've been spending our time, is like, how do we make ourselves more effective and work less? And I'm like, oh, this is pretty great too. Like sure. The new idea doesn't always have to be this like shiny product. And the other thing that I've been very conscious of is I no longer get to build a product that is selling me. Like those are no more of those will be coming out, team. Like we're done. Like whatever I build from now on is like something that doesn't require me to show up.
Yeah.
Because I got those.
Yeah. Because you're the bottleneck, right?
I am the bottleneck.
And that's the hardest place. I know for me, that was my thing was like, put the right people in place and get out of their way. Yep. Give them the structure, give them a little bit of creativity that they can feel like they own whatever they're doing. Mm-hmm. Get out of their way. Yep. And there's so many times where even now we have contractors we'll put in place that I've worked with them enough that it's very hands off, more so than most control people would want. And I'm not a control freak by any means. Mm-hmm. But if my wife were doing that, she'd want to be like, texting them every 5 minutes. How's the shoot going? What is it?
Oh,
it's like,
and Enneagram 1 has a lot of difficulty with delegation. Yeah. Any Enneagram 1 will tell you that like other people do, it's tough.
Yeah. It's like I have to do it, where it's like for me, I've really accepted like if it's 80% good, it's perfect. Cause it's like no one's going to notice the difference besides me. Yep. And I'm not making it for me. I'm making it for the client. Yep. And the client needs to be really happy with it. And as long as they're ecstatic.
Yep, we're good.
Overjoyed. Boom.
And like, I'll go through, people are like, oh, did you see the photos? I'm like, I haven't seen a finished photo until it like ends up on social media. Like
it looks like I took it.
Yeah. This looks good. And occasionally I'll like scroll through our file system and I'll be like, oh, Megan, this is a great edit on this. Nice job. And she's like, I did that 6 months ago. And I'm like, cool, whatever.
Nice.
But yeah, that like if it's 80% or whatnot, like, I always think, my standards are like 120. Like I have unrealistic expectations, but I also have, when you keep repeating the same thing over and over again, it gets to be about 100%. But if I keep moving, I see a lot of entrepreneurs that continue to move the mark on their team and then wonder why their team is failing because they're changing systems, they're changing protocols, they're changing products, they're changing services, and their team literally cannot keep up with everything that the entrepreneur wants from them. And this is a lot of the coaching I do when I coach my entrepreneurs is like, if you want your team to perform at a level of perfection, that means you change nothing. That means you pick something and you stick with it. And for most entrepreneurs, it's the challenge of their life. And I know that because that was absolutely also the challenge of my life. And now that I'm here, I've had several new ideas, like as I've sort of created more space in my life, come to me, like invite me in. And I am really hesitant. Like for the first time in my life, I'm like, do I want that idea more than I want my peace? And I really weigh that. Because I'm like, it's going to take X, it's going to take Y, it's going to take Z. Do I really want my nights and my weekends to have this thing? And for the most part, I've been saying no. I don't actually want that idea more than I want the time I get to spend with myself or the people I love.
There's so much power in saying no too, because
So
that shiny object thing, man. I mean, we talk about my business brain's always firing. There's so many things I'll see. Oh, I could do this. I don't invest in real estate, but I was like, I saw this property.
100%.
We could totally do this. And my wife's like, stop. What are you talking about? Just like put that money into something that's already working in your current business. And I'm like, damn it, that makes way too much sense. Like,
you might be right, babe.
Yeah, it's like, stop telling me the things I know I need to hear. But it's true. It's like some of those things you just kind of go off the rails. But I always say like you mentioned, is it worth the time and energy to make this change? Maybe we'll see a slight uptick here and there, but it's like, why don't we just double down on what's working and make it even better, you know?
Yeah. And like for me, since I will probably always be the bottleneck in some way, at least in the two businesses I currently run, how do we make it so easy for me to do that work that it doesn't take energy? Like now facilitating is so easy because I have the 6 facilitations I do. And like Amanda takes care of so much of that, like all the prep work ahead of time. So I just show up and I'm like, cool, I'm here for these 4 hours, but like there wasn't prep time ahead of that. Because we've systematized all of that and automated so much of that. So that's just been the fun part of like, now it does require me being okay being bored. And that's like, I don't know if it's going to be an ebook or a keynote or whatever. I have no idea. But like, I've gotten to this place where like bored is better than busy. And for an entrepreneur, like people are like, are you so busy? And I'm like, I'm really not. Like, I am not busy. My businesses are busy. They're doing great, but I am not. And you know, what would the life of entrepreneur, what would the life of corporate people, anybody, be like if they were comfortable being bored? And like, I would guarantee we'd have a lot more self-regulation. We'd have better night's sleep. We'd have a lot more like less consumption issues if we were okay being bored. But we have proven as, I don't know if it's Americans or capitalists or whatever, that we are allergic to being bored. And I think it takes a lot of self-work in order to be okay in boredom. And it's still like every time I'm like, okay, you're bored. Don't go light shit on fire. It's fine. You can have a weekend where you have nothing to do. Oh my God. And then I really enjoy it. I'm like, oh, I read 2 books and like sat outside and cooked a meal for myself. I did nothing other than those things. And turns out it was a pretty good time.
That's fantastic. I think it's where a lot of people want to be. They're just like afraid to say it. But there's also like seasons in life where like it's okay. Like you said, I've done the hustle. If you had that feeling when you first moved here, your mom would have been like, stop sleeping. I'm like,
seriously. But you make a huge point here. Like, and I want to anybody who's a young entrepreneur is like, I can do this now. I am 10 years in and I have a team of people who know me and we are not reinventing the wheel together. And so, you know, I would love to go back and like give some wide wisdoms to my younger self and tell her to like, it will all come in time. But I really appreciate that girl who hustled her ass off because now I'm like, okay, well, I can choose now. I literally can choose when I hustle and don't hustle. And what a gift to myself.
Right. Well, I think just knowing where that season of life's going, we always joke, my wife and I, like every time we were expecting a child, we'd make these huge life decisions because we're like,
yeah, let's do it all at once. Why not?
it's going to be crazy. Like, might as well just light the whole thing on fire.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Like, when my son was, my wife was pregnant with my son. I left my corporate job and started this business. When we were expecting our daughter, my wife left her hair salon and started her own hair salon business.
Oh, amazing.
So now
you're
it's
both
just
entrepreneurs.
we are now. Yep.
Just
So she
killing it.
Yeah. Well, I always joke she saw how much fun and sleepless nights I was having. She thought she'd have a little bit of that.
Oh yeah, two in one families. That's a bold move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we made it was funny because I was the stable one for a while. Where now, like you mentioned hair as an example earlier.
Yeah.
She has like 200 to 300 clients that she'll cycle through every 3 months.
Yeah.
Where it's like that's more stable
100%.
compared to like what I'm doing. It's kind of funny like the tug and pull of it. So.
Yeah. But I've been for the most part a single female entrepreneur. Like it's not that I haven't had. I have financially footed my own bill. Let's just say that in every single instance of my life, and it's a different thing. Because I saw, early in my career, I saw a lot of female entrepreneurs starting their businesses after they got married because they had health insurance. And I remember the jealousy that it was just like kind of seething in me that like that they didn't have to like climb this hill that I had like kind of chosen not to. Now I don't feel that. Now I don't. Now that I feel secure, of course, because like I saw that as security. Like they were not going to disrupt their whole life by being an entrepreneur. Meanwhile, I was actively choosing this. I probably could have chosen to get married. I know I could have. I could have chosen other forms of stability, but it was. I knew that for whatever reason, I was choosing to eventually learn how to be my own stability. And that I think is probably one of my like, if we're talking about like, what am I here to learn? I am here to learn how to be my own sense of stability and then invite people into that space. And entrepreneurship will teach you, if you let it, if you listen, it will teach you the thing you need to learn about yourself. Otherwise, it's just going to keep smacking you in the face.
How does it feel, though, to be on the other side of that where a lot of people think they probably couldn't float in the ocean, so to speak, as a frame of reference? Like, I could never start a business. I could never take a risk. I could never do this. It's like knowing that you've just stood on your own 2 feet and had to do it. You know, like you said, you had some warm introductions from your mom when you first moved here a decade
now
ago.
People are like, "Oh, that's your mom." I'm like,
they know you, and they know like,
and they'll be like, "You're Whitney's mom," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's right."
They know me first. Haha.
Here's what I'm going to say, and I don't think people are going to like this answer, but I don't think many people. I don't think a lot of people can do this. I don't think it's for everybody. I would highly not recommend this for a lot of people. And before anybody, if somebody comes to me and they're like, "Do you want to do this?" I'm like, "Okay, let's have a real conversation about what you're willing to live without. Let's have a real conversation for your tolerance for failure. Let's have a real conversation for your tolerance for not having the income stream that you have, for paying all of your bills. Like, what can your family hold? What can you handle? Like, what's your backup plan here? And how long will you go and what do you need to make?" I am really fortunate that I know how to live really poor. And I don't have a taste for really fancy things. But if you need to look really good and drive the newest car and like all this stuff, and like I'm like, "Ooh, you want to be driving a Honda when you start your business."
Sure. You need that Pinto from the 80s
you
with the
do.
mufflers hanging off
reliable.
the back.
My car is paid off and she
go.
will be driven for as long as she will go.
Sure.
But I don't actually believe that the majority of us are set up to be entrepreneurs, which is why most of the people that I started business with, like my community, most of those people are not still in business. And it takes a very specific person to keep going.
I totally resonate with that. And I think if anyone's listening and they're thinking if they got the chops, I always say, like, look at the hardest thing you've ever done. And if nothing comes to mind, go do something hard before you stake your entire,
yes.
Oh my gosh. Like this happened to me in 2017. I was talking with somebody, really accomplished business person, and they said, "What's the hardest thing you've ever done in your life?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, whatever." And they're like, "If you don't know instantly, go do some hard shit and just like get your lickings. Cause like if you can go to a safe place where you're, a training ground, so to speak, where you're not just jumping off a cliff and you're going to die type of thing, like figure it out."
Yep.
And that's kind of put me down my journey of like, I went through this, I did a bodybuilding competition. So it was like 3 months.
Yeah, I remember back when you were doing that. I met
dieting.
you around that time.
Yeah. Yep. So it probably was very hard conversations because I was hungry all the time. But it's like, that was the hardest thing I'd ever done at that point. And for me, I'm a huge foodie to say no to like pizza and cake at my
Yeah.
nephew's
But
birthday
deny
party.
like satisfaction for a
Yes.
long-term goal. Oh,
Yeah. And then when I got to the end of that, I'm sure people were annoyed with me by that point, but I'm like, I can do anything.
yeah.
And then we started doing other things. Like, how can you take that mindset and apply it to other
Discipline.
things? So my wife and I were engaged for 6 months and paid off all of our debt. We had $117,000 of debt we paid off in a year and a half.
Oh my God, that's so good.
Buttoned up the belt,
Yep.
cut our expenses like crazy,
Yeah.
paid all of our debt off, to cut our expenses completely in
Damn.
half at that time. This was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Completely changed our life where
Yeah.
it's like now we can make,
You freedom.
the things that would have hindered you, car payments or,
Yep.
or whatever,
Yeah,
credit card.
capitalism wants you to be in debt, so you have to do what they want you to do.
Yeah. So those were my two
Yeah.
break you at your knees, but I did it voluntarily. I was
Yeah.
voluntarily waterboarding
You
myself.
have to volunteer for pain. That advice you gave, those examples you gave, like if you are someone who does not like discomfort, do not become an entrepreneur because like that's all it is.
Yeah.
And even being bored requires like a level of discomfort from me that I'm like, this is a fascinating level that I'm at right now. And it takes denying things that I want. Like I feel like I'm kind of like on a diet right now in terms of like, just like, okay, what are all the things I get to say no to?
Yeah.
And like, how long can I survive in this deprivation? And it turns out, like, you're doing something where you're like probably at some of the healthiest. I mean, I hope healthy. I mean, I hope you started eating again.
Yeah.
But,
I eat normally now.
Okay.
What a normal person would eat. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, there's a certain amount of health that comes with that. There's a literal muscle memory. And now I'm like, oh, there's so much I don't need to do. Like after I've practiced, confidence is just practice in action. Like if you don't get, people are like, how do you get so confident? How are you so confident? I'm like, well, first of all, in terms of photography, I have literally photographed thousands of people every year for over more than a decade. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm confident. Like anything you do on repeat, you're going to eventually find confidence in, but most people cannot get through being bad at something to be excellent at it. And so that's the other thing I would say is like, you better be willing to be bad. You better have the humility to not be at the top of your game in the very beginning because you're not always going to be at the top. And in fact, if you're starting something, you're guaranteed to not be at the top.
Sure. Well, I think so many people avoid that discomfort because they're afraid of looking. It's all optics. And it's like, once you realize like it's okay to look stupid, you've never exercised before, you go to the gym, it's the first time you're going to look stupid.
100%.
You've never ridden a bike, the first time you try it, it's going to be hard. You know,
Absolutely.
It's one of those things that I think a lot of people don't build that into their life. Like for me, I always try to find one or two things that I'm working on as like a hobby that I'm really bad at, that I'm not like, but it gives me some enjoyment, but also
it
like
builds that muscle of I can be bad and get better.
Yeah. And that constant improvement, I think, comes from that time.
Yep.
But I also think the other thing about entrepreneurship to kind of tie it all together is we were talking about like your time. If you're an entrepreneur, it's like, have there been any bad times? Like, let's pick, but it's like sometimes.
Let me tell you about last week.
Right. And sometimes you have like, you don't have these earth shattering moments, but I'm always like, it's coming type of thing. Where, like I said, I'm in my stage with my business. I'm like, there's some huge decisions I have to make, but also like, I don't want to, break the wheels off my car and then push it down a hill. It's like I don't have a way to stop or slow down. So it's like you have to kind of take calculated risk, but also I think, like you said, if you take your lickings at some point in that journey, you at least have some calluses in your mind that you can
100%.
like fight through it. So
well, and like I'm coming to you today, almost 10 years in, like in a really good spot. I don't know that I would like. I was doing podcast interviews 2 years ago, and I've always been pretty candid about wherever I am, but like. In 2 years, I might be in another hard spot. Now it's going to look different. I'm going to be a different person in it. But like this stage I'm in doesn't insulate me from anything,
right.
Because the next level is waiting for me. And like whatever that is, I can't predict that. I've stopped trying to predict anything. I'm just like, listen, here are my numbers. I speak with my accountant every single month. Like as long as it looks good for now, and we can make some really good decisions. Like that's in my accountant I trust. But I'm not sitting here naively thinking that I'm not going to ever go through a hard time again. In fact, I fully expect to go through a hard time again. And it's probably going to be something I did. Like I will cause it. I have always caused it. I am the cause. If you are an entrepreneur, you are the cause. You are the cause of what's great and you are the cause of what sucks. Just get used to it.
I love that so much. That's great. One of the questions I had for you, you do a lot of studying with Enneagrams and working with companies. What Enneagram do you feel like the world needs more of?
Okay. So I don't know if they, how do I answer this? Okay. I want nines. Enneagram nines are adaptive peacemakers, like our quiet, go with the flow people. I want them to stand up and say what they believe. I want them to have their voice. I want them to have because they are people who, like, if their ego tells them to sit down, be quiet, go with the flow, like avoid chaos, but then they're just witnesses to chaos and they feel a lot of chaos inside. And I believe that if our nines were willing to take a stand, they're natural peacekeepers. Like, they could bring us all together. And then can I have a second answer to that?
Please do. Yes. I love this.
I would love our female eights to stand up. And I think they do. When you see, female eights, we have the energy to take the hits that need to be taken. And I think when I find one of my own, I'm like, oh, and people who are willing to do that in terms of policy and out there in a bigger space. I want to see more of the feminine orientation towards power and control and what that looks like, step up a little bit bigger.
Sure. No, I love that. Well, I think there's definitely people in our lives, if you're listening, like the first example you gave of like the quiet, go with the flow person. There's a lot of people like that I always joke with my wife. I'm like, just wait until they like put their foot down and they're like, hey, everyone's going to stop and be like, what? Because they've never like just put their foot in the ground and said, this is not okay, or I'm for this, or I don't, like people listen to those people.
Well, taking a stand. I'd love to see our nines, and it's not always nines, but it's the archetype of standing up and for something. Because I know that when they stand up, they do it from such a place of collaboration and contribution, and like they've listened, they've done the work. Whereas like someone like me, like I'm always putting myself out there. Like I need to sit in the back and actually, like one of my journeys has been to learn to listen and just be like, cool, I am not. And I ask myself all the time, what would a nine do? What would a nine do? Well, a nine would sit down, shut up, and wait for a second. And then they would contribute after they've heard everything. Like a healthy nine would come in and be like, okay, here's the consensus I'm hearing. I get to be like that. And when I see a nine that's like powerful, and we've had a recent president that a lot of people think is an Enneagram 9. And you see that and you're like, oh, that's what collaboration looks like. That's what like unity, a focus on unity looks like.
Sure. No, that's great. I think there's definitely, obviously each Enneagram has their strengths and weaknesses, but I think taking a step back has been big in terms of that. I know for me, I've always been the connector. I'm always around talking to people, very extroverted. And I've definitely had to scale that back a little bit more and like let other people talk first. And it's not because I like the sound of my own voice, even though I'm on my own podcast talking.
You might like it a little bit.
Ignore this part here. But as an interviewer with the show, with all my clients, when we interview people for business videos and stuff, it's like I feel like just letting someone have the floor, giving them the opportunity to, because there's some great ideas. There's some great solutions. There's some great input. Yeah. Just give them a chance to say it,
Well, and that's a way of using your extroversion, your powers of curiosity to give other people a platform. And to, it's if we can use whatever we're really good at to elevate, then we're doing our job.
Right.
So thanks for doing your job.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. And I brought in what I thought was an extroverted person on the show, but you're actually introverted. So.
Yeah, I always say I have an extroverted personality and an introverted soul. So I'm a little confusing in that way.
Sure. Well, and I know in my current stage of life, it's like kids and family and business, it's like all the time. So there's times when I have moments of silence where I'm like, it's weird because you're just used to the chaos,
Well, the first time you asked me to do this, I said no. Because I was at, I don't know when it was, but I was at a point in my life where I was like, I can't say yes to another thing where I'm talking. Like, I'm just not there right now. Sure. And then you reached out again and I was like, I think I got enough space to say
You're like,
yes
I've only worked 8 hours this week. Hell yeah.
Let's go. Legit. I was like, okay, this is a light week. I can come hang out with Ryan.
Right. Well, I had a couple of people have actually asked. One was a very high-powered CEO that just flat out said no, which was fun. I enjoyed those because then it's like, oh, okay, no worries. That's fine. But I did have another person that they're in I call it the knee deep in shit point of their business. And they're like, it's too embarrassing where I'm at. I'm like, no, you need to like tell me what's going on, because there's other people that are knee deep in shit listening to this show that feel like they're on an island somewhere because everyone talks about how great it is. I'm like, no, like,
oh God, if you're knee deep in shit, believe me, I've been both knees.
Yes. Yes.
I'm pretty sure my face has been in it a time or two. Like we're just eating from that pile.
Sure. So I think it's this point of like, not everyone has their stuff together, but also like people that do have had their lickings. And I don't think people understand that. Like, even if you are silver spoon person, whatever, like there's a point when you're out on your own in the wild and like you get your lickings eventually. Yeah. And like everyone gets that thick skin eventually.
Gosh, I remember I'd heard this through the grapevine, so I don't even know if this is true or not, but this is still early on in my career here. And somebody told me that another photographer had said to them like, oh, well, Whitney's only successful because of her mom.
Oh, doesn't that suck?
And it didn't shock me. I know this person, whatever. It didn't shock me based on his personality that would be the thing that he would grab onto as like, this is what makes me successful. And I was like, that's so fascinating. Because that also is like, it's a little bit of a fear point for me. At least in the beginning it was, when people are like, oh, you're Michelle's daughter. And I was like, I am Whitney.
God damn it.
And now there's so many people. I just showed up at like a chamber event where my mother was speaking and people were like, oh, that's your mom? And, I have my own separate relationships. And like, I grew out of even worrying about that because it was so untrue. And you never succeed because of somebody else's reputation. That will never happen long term. That's just not a thing. If I was not good at my job, if I did not follow through, if I was not the person I was, people would have stopped paying me by now.
That's so fascinating. I really hate that. And being a micro-influencer on YouTube and other places, I have a really large Facebook group where videographers follow me. There's like 93,000 people in my Facebook group.
Ooh.
So there's a lot of people that like look to me for advice, but then other people crap on me at the same time.
Yeah, sure.
But it's funny because I'll get similar things where people just assume certain things, and I'm like, you have no clue. But it's funny to me because I'm like, I've documented the whole journey. Like you can literally just like scroll through the videos and watch like.
But they don't want to believe when they see someone who's doing exactly what they want, or perhaps maybe feeling like this person, I think this person who was saying this felt like I was taking something from him. So they don't want to believe that I could just be doing that based on my own merit. It is much easier to believe X, Y, Z or something like that. And I'm like, And I've watched that. That's something I've always really watched in myself is that other people's success does not detract from mine. That is a very important,
God, no, I love that.
Well, and it's so, and I'm like, when you know who you are and what you do, like there are plenty of other great videographers in town.
Sure.
And I refer the people that I think are doing amazing work in this town regularly because I do one thing really well. Well, I do a lot of things really well. Let's be honest.
Give yourself a break here.
But like, let's make the list. But when somebody comes to me and I'm like, that's not my style, that's not my thing, that's not, because I'm not trying to like take over all these markets, I can be generous with my fellow photographers, and people will get referrals from me quite often because I'm like, this is the person you want to go to talk to about that.
Sure.
Come to me when you want this. And like anytime you are looking at somebody else and even giving them a second thought, that is just such detractive energy from what you should be doing, which is who am I? What am I doing? How am I showing up? What's next for me?
Sure. One, it's a balance for sure. I know for us, we definitely go more for the collaboration over competition, and
100%.
Especially in our industry, in the marketing world, it's like
you got to in video too.
Everyone needs what we want or have to offer. So it's like if it gets to the point where we're at the tippy top of the whole market and there's only like 10 people in town that can even afford those rates, then yes, I get it. It gets very competitive. Yep. But for us, we're more mid-market. We're not, we're not the tippy top, but we're also not like beginner level.
Of course.
There's so much land out here. We're floating
I was like,
on
I love being in that market. I'm the same. Sometimes people are like, you're so expensive. I'm like, have you actually done your research? Because I have.
Yeah. If you're like a very specific niche, like studio photographer for like a campaign for Nissan or anything, it's like way more.
Look at those dollars. But I've never also wanted, I built my models to maintain accessibility. Now that doesn't mean that I'm giving away my time for any less, but like I have 10-minute headshot sessions for a very specific reason, because I can do 6 in an hour, make sure that my hourly rate is exactly what I want. But if people can only pay X, well, okay, you can still have an experience of a lifetime in 10 minutes with me.
Sure.
And that's always been really important to me to have those options.
It's profound for sure. And I think, and that's kind of where we've evolved our business models. Like people will come to us for the moon and the stars and everything. It's like, we'll have a package for that, but we'll also have something that might be an upsell or a downsell or something. You just give people options, and then they can decide what they want to do. 100%.
So. Always 3 options team. If you're package based, you need 3.
There you go. No, I love that. Let's see here. We talked a lot about kind of the emotional maturity of the world, and as you're helping people with the business side as that's going on, what are some of those, I would say, like emotional or mental barriers that keep most businesses stagnant?
The inability to delegate.
Okay.
I see that with a lot of my leaders. I have several 1 leaders on my docket right now, type 1, Enneagram type 1.
Yep.
And, that idea that they're not going to do it perfectly is really, really tough for them to get through. Not to say that they're the only ones. This can be an entrepreneur thing. The scarcity mindset is huge. And I have so much intimacy with that feeling, like that there's never going to be enough. But in order to get out of that, I had to realize that, like, for 10 years, I have always paid my mortgage. I have always been able to buy food. There has always been enough. Now, it might not be it might not be, piles and piles of riches at all times, but it's always been enough. And like embracing that mindset that, like, because in order to embrace there is enough, you have to embrace I am enough. And most people have an I am enough deficit. They don't believe that, which is what keeps us hustling, which is what keeps us in chaos, which is what keeps us in scarcity. And it is a journey. It is like a dedicated journey to be like, I am enough as I am in this moment. Therefore, whatever I create is enough. And it does require that discipline and that ability to be like, that's not for me. I don't need that work. They can do it just as well or better, and I can take a nap. But yeah, those would be the biggest: scarcity, lack of delegation. Oh, and taking things personally.
Right. You are not the work, right?
Yeah.
We have to remind ourselves of that a lot here, especially with getting the edits back and things getting ripped apart. It's like, they're not critiquing you, they're critiquing the work. Yeah. And the work is just something that they hired us to do for them. Yeah. So
and their critiques are a reflection of their needs, not you. And when, we'll have some editing requests that come in that, we have a very specific editing philosophy at Ivory House. And because I want people to look like real humans. That's super important to me. But some people don't want to look like real humans.
Can you smooth my skin out? I have bags under my eyes, or I have wrinkles.
And we do some stuff. Like, we're not just like sending you off into the world. I mean, I don't retouch my photos at this point. I'm just like, whatever. Like, I have to practice what I preach. So you just, what you see is what you get. But I've had some people where that's what they need. And I actually asked them, like, hey, awesome, we will absolutely do this for you. But can you not tag us in the photos at the end of the day? Because this is your creation. I understand that. I'm going to honor that. But this is no longer our creation or our standard. So, like, you take that, but we just ask that you don't tag us in the photos. And like there's been a couple clients where that's had to happen, because I'm like, we'll take care of this for you, but it's not on our edit. It's their insecurity.
Sure.
Or it's like what they think, for you when edits come in. It's like, what are they afraid of? That's going to happen if it goes out into the world of like this. And that's what people are making editing requests on, is based on fear.
Yeah. We've had to have those tough conversations. I've gotten a lot better at them over the last 10 years where it's like, okay, clearly there's something going on. What is it? They need
to exercise their power somewhere.
What is it? And there's sometimes we've had one where we interviewed a senior executive for a company in Nebraska. She had an amazing interview, very well spoken, hated it, take me out. I'm like, why? It's because she thought she looked old. She didn't like her skin. And I'm like, we did our normal, like you said, we do all of our things, 3-point lighting. It's the most flattering thing to your face. If you don't like the look of your own face, that's not my fault. But you had some great points. And the purpose of this video is to convince them to buy from your company. And if you take yourself out, you're going to make this video not achieve that. Well, they did it. They took it out. So I'm like, okay. Gosh.
And then I wonder, like, is this person in sales?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would be like, that is not a person I would have in sales.
No.
Because I see that all the time. People are like, cannot be seen, like the ultimate vanity. So I talk about vanity a lot, because people are like, oh, the people who get photographed all the time. Like, I'm constantly photographed. Like, I'm just, whatever. My team and I photograph each other all the time. but I'm also videoed all the time by my content creator. And my view on vanity is that vanity is control over your image in any sort of way. So being videoed is the ultimate release of control because you are in fluid motion. Like, I'm going to look back at this and I'm going to see this is going to happen sometimes. And like, I'm going to have moments where I'm like, oh, sure. Okay. But it doesn't matter. That moment that my chin became 3 is not me.
Sure.
Like when my content creator is filming me from the back, my least favorite angle ever, but like that's how you kind of grab what I'm doing at the same time. I just breathe in and out and I'm like, I am not my back fat. I am not my back fat. Because it doesn't, like that is the ultimate release of vanity. It's not how much or how little you're photographed, because I find that people that avoid the camera are the vainest people we have, because the ultimate control over their image. They have to control to the extent that they're not seen. And that breaks my heart, because if they cannot allow themselves to be seen, what else do they deny themselves in this life? And I can imagine it's most of the good things.
Sure. I have some people really close to me in my life that refuse to be photographed, and there's a lot of photographs that they should be in from my life that they're not. And it's like, but you were there, but you just stepped out of the picture. And it's like, now it's like you're pretending that you didn't exist there. And it's like, there's a lot of psychological things that go into that where
100%.
You just wish they were comfortable in their own skin,
Yeah. It's a journey for everybody. I have a lot of empathy for it. I hold a lot of people in that. And that's one of the reasons I still shoot, is because I know I'm somebody who people who are that afraid will come to me eventually. Not everybody, of course, but I know I'm a safe space for that.
Sure. You can help facilitate that butterfly effect. They can emerge from the cocoon. Be a
here,
beautiful butterfly.
Yes, exactly.
So we've talked about a lot. This has been such a fun conversation. If someone's trying to take some big picture things away, I think I'd love for you to speak more about if they're wanting to try to get time back in their week and delegate or put some systems in place. What's kind of a good first step for someone to look at if they're the firefighter of their business? They just run around with their hair on fire and they're trying to put out the fire. What steps can someone take to kind of put some systems or delegation in place to give themselves time back?
Yeah, if you are a creative entrepreneur and you don't have an EA, you need one, period. You have enough work for them. And if you don't have enough work for them, that's a whole nother thing. But like most people, like Amanda had 20 hours worth of work the second that she walked into my business. Scheduling, returning emails, invoicing, like anything that's not getting done or anything you don't like to do, someone else should be doing. I don't do things I don't like to do. It doesn't go well for anybody. So anything you don't like to do, you should be hiring it out. And you can start at 5 hours a week. Like there are EAs that will take you on and just do your email management or just do your scheduling. And if you don't have a bookkeeper, you 100% need a bookkeeper. Get a bookkeeper.
Oh, yeah. I think before I knew what I was doing, I was paying like 45% in tax or something stupid.
Oh, God.
You're talking about those like tens of thousands of dollars in tax.
Like, okay, well, I wasn't in LLC being filed as an S corp, paying payroll tax, like all the bullshit that's happening now.
Yeah, it's like, sorry, I fell asleep in accounting class in college. Okay, I was a little hungover from the weekend.
I didn't even take accounting class in college.
And Whitney, we bypassed your college experience. We'll let you get past there.
It's fine.
But I think that's a huge tip. I love that. If someone's looking to, I would say, embrace boredom, if maybe they found it now, maybe it's 5 years from now, they find boredom in their business in a good way. What's the next natural step for them to try to evolve as a business owner?
Because they already found boredom?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Learn to really love your own life outside of work. I would not say, like, right now I am not focused on doing something else will come to me for my business. They already have, but like I've really been focused on rebuilding my community connections, rebuilding friendships, because I am single and childless. Well, not single, but childless, unmarried and childless.
Sure.
And a lot of my friends are having kids. So a lot of my friends are busy on the weekends. So I have found that, like, in order for me to continue to really love my life in Des Moines, it has required me getting back out there and like extroverting a little bit more. And so if you're bored in your business, like let it be. Like go be you. This is your opportunity to like lean into everything you've created. If you've got stability and you've got a little bit of boredom, now you get to go have a rockin' friend circle and like take a few trips and like do some fun shit that like you couldn't necessarily afford to or feel comfortable doing early on in your journey.
No, I love that. And just being probably transparency with the team too. It's like, I'm not pissing off because I hate you guys. Like I'm taking time for me so I can show up and be the best version of me.
We have, Ivory House now has, and I say the Ivory House team, but the Ivory House team supports Evoke too. So like actually all of my people support everything. We take full week, like we're going to take 2 full weeks off of over Christmas. Actually, I think we might do 3. And then I'm going to like leave and probably go to Vietnam. Don't hold me to that, but like the plane ticket is getting bought within the next couple of weeks. Like I get to go and that's part of the deal with me is like they fully support. I'm the one that loves to travel. They fully support me in doing that. And they can still do their work when I'm gone. But I also find out like what does supporting them look like? What do they want? Well, some people want, more time with their families. So I'm like, okay, let's automate more so you can get paid the same and spend more time with your family. Awesome. Win-win for everybody.
I love that. Whitney, it's been so great. If people are listening and they need some headshots or they need
some emotional
intelligent audit for their business, where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, so you can website. So it's www, as it goes, ivoryhousephotography.com or evokeeq.com. Those are the best places to find me. Or you can either email hello@ivoryhousephotography.com or hello@evokeeq.com. I am ridiculously easy to find on the internet. So if you type in Whitney Warne, I will pop up. If you type in Ivory House or Evoke, those two will also pop up.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. If you guys are still listening in, make sure to check her out on social media, follow her, find her stuff on her websites if you're looking for her services. If you guys have not, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Our goal this year is 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel so we can finally monetize. So this isn't just a hobby. We're 95 episodes in, which is pretty exciting. So if you haven't done that, make sure to do that. You can also check us out on social media for all of the clips from the last almost 100 episodes that we put out every single week for you guys for free. So until next week, my name is Ryan Snaadt. It rhymes a lot, and I'm out. Peace. Thank you so much for watching yet another episode of the Rhymes with the Odd podcast. We really do appreciate your support. If you could give us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes, that makes a world of difference, guys. Also, if you're tuning in on YouTube or Spotify, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode, and check us out on social media. Also, if you'd like to inquire more about our services here at Snaadt Media Group or learn about doing your own podcast for your own business, you can find us at snaadmedia.com. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace.